Hello and welcome wherever you may be on the planet of chaos. I hope you're well this week and surviving in a progressively more insane era. This week I've got some interesting practice advice from Mr. Gurdjieff that comes from a Paris meeting. And I have quite a lot of material from the Buddha. Firstly, his instructions for the creation of higher being bodies, and his strange counsel about these powers. Then I will discuss dependent co-arising, which is one of his themes. And thirdly, he has a discourse of the origins of the earth in a time very distant from today, when the sun and the moon didn't exist and human beings were luminous beings. But sir, to establish a right relationship with another, you must be sure of what you are yourself. You do two parts. Inwardly you do not identify. Outwardly play a role. Take the thing as a guide. Now your task is to acquire inner freedom. This is the start for going further. And for that you must do what I told you. What is it to play a role? Try to understand it more broadly. Do all the things to please him. If he likes you to go right, then go right. At another time he likes the opposite. Just do it. It is an objective role. A different role with each person. And you get used to fulfilling obligations. It is one of the aspects for the future of the free man. It is not necessary to philosophize. Afterwards, fine. First, prepare the ground. The ground has 7 aspects. After that, you can go on as you want. In the future, you must play a role with every man. For your egoism, to make everyone your slave, you don't do what you like, but what he likes. But towards his father, is it an internal or an external obligation? I said that internally you have objective obligations, but at the same time, externally you play a role with him, as with everyone else. It is difficult at first, but then you will see all things change. Perhaps afterwards your father will become your slave. Even God can become your slave. I happened to be brushing my teeth in the sink just after I read this, and I moved into a witnessing position where I could witness myself moving in space, as an impartial observer, and then self-remembering. But Gurdjieff is talking about something yet one step a little further away, and it refers to his ideas of the construction of so on. It is as if this world that we live in is a kind of operating machine, and you keep your ship on the same latitude. When you want to do something, you pull it back and you steer it by the line of the latitude, and you use that as the guide for training yourself so that you reach internal unity. But in this case, as we're working in life, instead of a ship that is being steered by the latitude, you're using the requirements of the people around you. You try to fit in to the smooth lines of those relationships. And they are objective, meaning that they are hard. As well as developing sensitivity for what people actually want and what makes things smooth, you align yourself with them and use it as a training tool to develop your own inner freedom. I don't like the way he uses the word slave, but the truth is that mankind is not doing very well as a whole, and somebody has to reach a higher level, and this is a good way to do it. In the old days, when I was young, you were told to stand up straight, to sit up straight and stop slouching, to get your elbows off the table, and to put the knife and fork exactly aligned on either side of the plate. These small things kept you sharp. They kept your moving center active. You weren't falling asleep. Yeah, those things have gone out of fashion now, haven't they? But that was at least part of the meaning of them. When you make coffee, you can make it beautifully. Are you going to put the cafetiere wherever you want, or will you line it up with a fruit bowl? You don't have to do any of this stuff. You can just get back in the coffin and stop doing any work, but if you want to work, you can do it right here. 1.5 heaped cups of that Ethiopian Gurdjieff, that's what you want. No more, no less. Accuracy, deliberate, completion, perfection. All of life can be like that. Maybe one day if you play this game enough, you'll start to enjoy life again. And sort of take it more seriously. Be more inside of it. It's both fun, serious, and sort of non-serious at the same time. But it is not asleep. Now let's talk about opium, because Gurdjieff mentions the 7 factors here, as he often does. I just looked up this morning 2 things. First of all, what are the components of opium? And the second thing is the active alkaloid components. How many of them are there? And now we shall turn to the Buddha, a man who was known for his great sense of humor and all the jokes that he told. Not really. The monk with his mind thus concentrated, purified and bright, unblemished and free from defects, pliant, malleable, steady, he directs and inclines it to creating a mind-made body. From this body he creates another body endowed with form, mind-made, complete in all its limbs and faculties. Just as if a man were to draw a reed from its sheath, he would think, this is the reed and that is the sheath. The reed is one thing, the sheath another. But the reed has been drawn from the sheath. Or if a man were to draw a sword from its scabbard, or if a man were to pull a snake out of its slough. Buddha teaches also telepathy and various other things that obviously don't exist. But at the end of the sutta, he discourages monks from doing so. He says, and how is a monk to consummate his virtue? By abandoning the taking of life. He abstains from the taking of life. He dwells with his rod laid down, his knife laid down, scrupulous, merciful, compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. This is part of his virtue. He takes only what is given, accepts only what is given, lives not by stealth but by means of a self that has become pure. This too is part of his virtue. Abandoning uncelibacy, he lives a celibate life, aloof, refraining from the sexual act that is the villager's way. This too is part of his virtue. Now, since both dark and bright qualities, which arise together, and which are blamed and praised by the wise, they are scattered indiscriminately among the 4 castes. The wise do not recognize the claim about the Brahmin caste being the highest. Why is that? Because, Vaseta, anyone from the 4 castes who becomes a monk and arahant, who has destroyed the corruption, who has lived the life, done what has to be done, laid down the burden, reached the highest goal, destroyed the fetter of becoming, and becomes emancipated through that super knowledge. There is something deeply confused about Buddha's understanding. Firstly, he knows how to create higher bodies and his instructions are particularly good. But then he dismisses the whole idea because he says that we should be harmless. We should take only what is given, like the seed-bearing fruit from a tree that is given. Nothing else is given. Apart from, let's say, your hands and your feet and your brain and your mouth, are they not also given? It's strange timidity in all that. We also have canine teeth. We also have an immune system that's killing all day long. There is something good about not taking what is not yours, but the thing is, if the earth gives birth to you, it's like the mother. The mother, what does she want? Does she want you to obey all the time? In a certain way. But you also represent her and she wants you to grow into a great hero. So this idea of non-violence is only part of things, isn't it? There is a kind of struggle always between violence and non-violence. We have hands and claws, don't we? What are we going to do with them? Life is always a struggle to understand. There must be a struggle, otherwise there wouldn't be life. And one thing is for sure, is that humanity can be destroyed by its own failure to get it, to do something, to contribute. Buddha's idea about dependent origination, that bright and dark arise together, high and low arise together, man and woman arises together, red and blue arise together. Therefore we can just dismiss them. Right? Not right. That is not right. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. They arise together? Not exactly. They are created one after another. Otherwise it would be do, 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 do. Otherwise the spectrum would have blue on both sides. It's not right. They are different. Every plane manifests those divisions in sequence. And the task of life is the weaving of them and the interweaving of octaves according to all the formulae that Gurdjieff explained. That's what's happening. Buddha criticizes not exactly the dependent arising of things. It's not exactly that he's criticizing. He's criticizing that, for instance, the castes no longer function because the qualities of good and dark are now scattered widely. The castes are broken, everything has fallen apart. But that structure should be there, but it has been lost. And what actually has been lost, in a more detailed way, is that the rhythm of social organization and the internal regulation of people has become mismatched. They have forgotten what their grandparents did. They're no longer respected. They've kind of fallen out of the sheath. Things have become displaced from each other. It's not clear how to get things back. Buddha also describes the origin of the earth. He whose faith in the Tathagata is settled, rooted, established, solid and unshakable, can truly say, I am a true son of the blessed Lord, born of his mouth, born of Dharma, created by Dharma, and heir of Dharma. There comes a time, Vasetta, when sooner or later after a long period, this world contracts. At a time of contraction, beings are mostly born in the Abhisara Brahma world, and there they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight, self-luminous, moving through the air, glorious, and they stay like that for a very long time. But sooner or later, after a very long period, this world begins to expand again. At a time of expansion, the beings from the Abhisara Brahma world having passed away from there, are mostly reborn in this world. Here they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight, self-luminous, moving through the air, glorious, and they stay like that for a very long time. At that period, Vasetta, there was just one mass of water, and all was darkness, a blinding darkness. Neither moon or sun appeared, nor constellations or stars. Night and day were not yet distinguished, nor months and fortnights. Nor years and seasons there was, no male and female, beings being reckoned just as beings, and sooner or later, after a very long period of time, savoury earth spread itself over the waters where those beings were. It looked just like the skin that forms itself over hot milk as it cools. It was endowed with colour, smell and taste. It was the colour of fine ghee or butter, and it was very sweet like pure wild honey. Then some being of a greedy nature said, "I say, what can this be?" and tasted the savoury earth on its finger. In so doing it became taken with the flavour, and craving arose in it. Then other beings, taking their cue from that one, also tasted the stuff with their fingers. They too were taken with the flavour, and craving arose in them. So they set to with their hands, breaking off pieces of the stuff in order to eat it, and the result was that their self-luminance disappeared. And as a result of the disappearance of their self-luminance, the moon and the sun appeared, night and day were distinguished, months and fortnights appeared, and the year and its seasons. To that extent the world re-evolved. And those beings continued for a very long time, feasting on this savoury earth, feeding on it and being nourished by it, and as they did so their bodies became coarser, and a difference in looks developed amongst them. Some beings became good-looking, others ugly, and the good-looking ones despised the others, saying, "We are better looking than they are." And because they became arrogant and conceited about their looks, the savoury earth disappeared. At this they came together and lamented, crying, "Oh, that flavour! Oh, that flavour!" And so nowadays, when people say, "Oh, that flavour," when they get something nice, they are repeating an ancient saying without realizing it. And then when the savoury earth disappeared, a mushroom cropped up. It was of good colour, smell and taste. It was the colour of fine ghee or butter. It was very sweet like pure wild honey. And those beings set to and ate the mushroom. And this lasted for a very long time, and so they continued to feed on that mushroom, so their bodies became coarser still, and the difference in their looks increased still more. And the good-looking ones despised the others because they became arrogant and conceited about their looks. The sweet mushroom disappeared, and next creepers appeared, shooting up like bamboo, and they too were very sweet like pure wild honey. The big thing that I find it difficult to express, but what is it that people talk about? Because in their bodies and in their rhythms, that's the earth, that is stable, that is planted. But it is when they speak that problems arise, when they so-called think that problems arise, because that material is not connected to the earth and is therefore unreal. That is why the knowledge that is inside guilds, inside the trades, that knowledge which is close to the earth, close to the hands, that is the most valuable thing, because that is when the sword has been drawn from the scabbard. Something new has been created, but it is close to the scabbard, close to the earth. That's what you need. That is really the knowledge that you need. You draw one sword from another, from another, but it is close. You keep them close together. Such things are the real law that few people know. Thank you for visiting.
Weihe dein Lichterschein und die kleinen Vogelein bringen freudenvollen Schrein, dass sie wille kommen sein. Ich bin an den Freuden mein mit der Welt krank. Alle Tag ist mein Klag, von der ich das Beste sag, und ich ihr holdes Herze trag, dass ich dir nicht wohl behag, von den Schulden ich verzag, das mir nie gelang. Als ihr doch den Jungen an, ihr Dienst ist gelungen, die noch guter Weiberlohn je hoflichen Rungen, noch han ich beide uns gedient und gesungen. Lieben Wahn, den ich han, von der Gurten wohlgetan, der ich viel gedient han, der kann ich mich nicht verlann. Soll die Liebe mich vergann, senfter wär ich tot. Ich was je wie es vergeh, seit dass ich ihr künde wie Gott und jetzt wenn auch gar hier an ihrem Dienste, dass sie nie Lützel mich genießen lieb, wie sie mir verbot. Soll ich ihr dienen und des ohnen und von ihr beleiben, so ist es übel in mir, wann des Guten an den Weiben. Von dem Glauben möchte mich der Kaiser nicht vertreiben. Ungemach mir geschah, da ich ein Weib von erst an sah, ihr man alles Gutes jach und ihr jedes Beste sprach, die ihr Keuschen nie zerbrach, baut auch ihr Weibheit. Nun ist mein Haar Kreisgefahr, das kommt von ihren Schulden gar, ihre spielende Augen klar nehmen mein viel Lützel wahr, so die meinen blicken dar an Gunther Veit. Wollt sie mit den ihren gegen den meinen Zwieren, die Minne die gebeutet, dass die Augen schammelieren, beide zwischen Mannen und Weiben und ihr hofieren.